Bruh, so a lot is going on today or tonight in the MMA world. I mean, Julianna Peña made some noise in this recent interview, man. I mean, I might have to make a separate video for that, to be honest. Which I probably will. I'll talk about some of it here, but I want to make another video because right now there's kind of more important things to talk about. But of course, Peña clapped back at Maycee Barber, and now Maycee she's like really dead ass wants that fight and wants to fight Peña at 135. Peña also goes in depth with the beef between her and Raquel Pennington. Also clapped back at Mayra Bueno Silva. Literally called Mayra Amanda Nunes's tampon holder. Oh my gosh, man. Julianna was on freaking demon time. But you know what? I'm going to save that for another video. But goddamn, Israel Adesanya has a new opponent, and UFC 294, the official lineup, has just been announced. Holy smoke. So let's start with Israel Adesanya. So he took to his Insta story to say, unquote, Dickless Duplessis has backed out of the fight with himself. He's not ready for UFC 293. He's not ready for Sydney, which honestly is shocking. It's very surprising. I thought DDP was going to be ready. I knew for a fact if Rob had won, Robert might need more time off, being Robert. The fact that he couldn't do a quick turnaround in 2021 from April to June, and Marvin filled in. But being who Drickus is, I thought he was the type of fighter to do those kind of quick turnarounds, and the fashion in which he won as well. I mean, second round TKO, and it's not like it was like a back and forth war. It was a one-sided dominant performance and a beatdown in favor of Drickus. So I thought, okay, he should be ready to go in Sydney in 2 months, but apparently not. I think he's got a foot injury. He might need to let his foot heal a little bit. Obviously he wants to fight Israel Adesanya at more than, he wants to fight him at close to 100%. I know no one's ever 100% in the octagon, but he wants to be at his best when taking on the last style bender, because we know who Israel Adesanya is, how good he is, how hard he is to beat. Drickus does not want to show up like a shell of himself. He wants to fight to his full potential, so I can't knock on him for taking the time. And plus, he already had like a long, hard training camp for Robert, so I can see why he wants some time off. I mean, Marvin Vettori didn't take the time, and he rushed right back in there after fighting Holland. Not saying it would have made a difference, but that kind of scenario is never ideal for any fighter, especially in a title fight. So whatever. We're going to get Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. And I mean, that fight, in all honesty, it's not better. I feel like Drickus versus Izzy is a more exciting matchup, with also an exciting build-up, but Izzy versus Strickland will have a good build-up. They got unfinished business from the UFC 276 presser when Strickland roasted his ass. So I think we need another presser between those two, with Sean sounding off and my boy Israel Adesanya. But I can see why Izzy's pressed about Drickus not wanting to show up, and why he's not being classy about Drickus needing time to heal his foot, because Drickus talked all that shit, about Israel Adesanya and, not being a real African. And I don't want to get into that stuff like that. I would love to see both African brothers, Drickus and Izzy, unite as one. We don't want this division. I want to like Drickus Duplessis. I'm not trying to hate on him, but I could see why Izzy is not being gracious about Drickus not being ready, because the bad blood these two got. And Drickus said, I was ready to go again right away. I was ready to put on gloves again. And he was ready to put on gloves again within that same night, but wasn't ready to go again in September. So I get it. I get why Izzy's on his ass for that. But Izzy Strickland it is, UFC 293. I mean, that's the fight a lot of fans assumed was already going to headline that card before UFC 290, because we all assumed that Robert was going to win. We all just safely assumed he was going to win and need time off, because he's Robert. He deserves a longer camp for his toughest matchup like Israel Adesanya. You know what I mean? But no, things panned out differently. Drickus shook up the world. So whatever, that didn't end up happening. But regardless, we're still going to get Izzy versus Strickland, because Strickland's the type of fighter who will fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. He's really about that life, and he's one of the most active fighters on the roster. So you can always count on a guy like Sean to do a quick turnaround. I think Israel Adesanya should win this fight pretty comfortably. I mean, you got two strikers, but Adesanya is a much better, more seasoned striker than Strickland. Strickland, he walks forward in that iCarly stance, which got him knocked out against Alex Pereira. I just think Israel Adesanya is going to be 2 steps ahead of him in the stand-up department and chop at the calves of Sean. It'll probably be a boring fight. Sean's best hope is to mix it up and try to grapple, but Izzy has very good defensive grappling. So I think it's going to boil down to the striking. They're going to do the man dance, and Izzy's just going to make it look easy, defend his belt, his first defense back as a 2-time champion. Him and Dricus are going to fight each other in September. Or no, sorry, not September. I mean early 2024. Now, UFC 294. Dana White just announced the card. So remember when Charles Oliveira said that he wasn't ready and that Islam called out Leon Edwards? He wanted to challenge himself because he said he didn't have an opponent. And then Volk said, "Where are you running to?" Well, guess what? Charles Oliveira, I guess he is ready. And he's going to fight Islam in Abu Dhabi. That's going to be an interesting rematch. But is Charles really ready? Like, I won't be surprised, guys. I'm going to say this right now. What might happen? Do not get your hopes up about this rematch happening. It might not. We might see Charles. If any one of the two is going to pull out, it ain't going to be Islam. He's showing up for Abu Dhabi. But if anyone's going to pull out, Charles will pull out, and Volkanovski will be ready. He'll stay ready again like last year, and this time he'll get that last-minute opportunity. And then he'll fight Islam. Winner of that welcomes back Charles Oliveira for the first Q of 2024. That's actually going to be my prediction beyond the matchup. But about the matchup, I do favor Makhachev this time. Last time I picked Oliveira. Knowing what I know now, I just think Islam has his number. We know that Islam Makhachev can manhandle Charles Oliveira on the ground. He's one of the only guys in this division who can go out there, take Charles down, and be safe. Even though Charles, there is the danger there with his bottom game. He's dangerous from his guard. Islam, with that top pressure, is that guy who's going to neutralize Charles' bottom game and maul him, and he can keep him there. Although Charles does have an ability to get back up. We did see that. Still, he does not want to be beneath Islam. But then even the striking, it's a little bit dangerous for Oliveira because Islam has better defense. Islam also has power. Islam's fast, and his striking arguably is better than Charles Oliveira. Or maybe not better, but he did outstrike him last time. So Oliveira is going to need to approach this fight differently. He's going to need to be a lot more patient on the feet. He can't go out there reckless. He should put pressure on Makhachev, but he's got to be smart defensively. He can't go out there thinking he's going to walk through him. And then also, if he has an opportunity to get back up, the mistake he made last time is he stayed in the clinch. He stayed in the clinch too long, and then Islam threw him back down. You know, he made a lot of dumb decisions. So in this fight, he's got to approach it smart in terms of striking and grappling. Don't go to the ground if you don't have to. Be patient on the feet, and I guess we'll see how his adjustments work. But ultimately, I just think Islam is going to be too much. I still think Islam wins on the feet against Oliveira. We know he can outgun him, overpower him in the exchanges. And also, Islam has the option of being able to take the fight to the ground and dominate. So I think if Charles doesn't pull out, I think it's just going to be a repeat of the last fight. It might go a little bit longer. But I think Islam will still eventually find that finish somewhere, probably in round 3. Maybe round 4, maybe round 2 again, who knows? Or maybe this time Charles Oliveira does get revenge. I'm interested to see what Charles has for him this time, but there's levels. Islam was right when he said that after Charles beat Beneil, because Islam is better than Beneil Dariush. He ain't no Beneil Dariush, and he's a lot harder to beat than Beneil Dariush. So I think Makhachev gets it done again and still, but we shall see. But Dana also announced, so remember when Paulo pulled out of the Ikram Aliskerov fight for next weekend? Well, it turns out Paulo is going to be fighting in 3 months. He wasn't playing when he said, I'm fighting the gourmet Chen Khamzat Chimaev. That fight will happen. Khamzat and Paulo Costa. Finally, Chimaev has a fight. He's made up his mind on what division he's fighting in. It's going to be 185 against Paulo. And man, that is a hell of a matchup. You got two bulldozers in there, two guys who are basically bullies in the cage. They love to impose themselves, impose their will on whoever they're fighting. Costa is a striker. Khamzat is a guy who can strike, but is mainly wrestler, grappling heavy. But both guys are the same in regards that they're both tough. They both come forward with heavy shots. But you'll see Chimaev like level change, go for takedowns, try to trap you beneath him and maul you, whereas Paulo will, his intentions are get you against the cage and batter you with combinations, those shots to the body and mixing it up to the head until you eventually crumble from that pressure, fold and drop to the floor. Like Johnny Hendricks and like Uriah Hall, but he hasn't had a finish since 2018. Couldn't finish old man Luke Rockhold. Tough to say how this fight's going to go because Paulo is very strong. His takedown defense is very good. He's bigger than anyone that Chimaev has ever fought before. So I'm not sure if Khamzat can go out there and can just take down and keep down Paulo Costa. But on the feet, Chimaev could have some moments. He could land some good shots. He's got a good jab. He's got a good straight cross. He does have power, but Paulo has a chin. So I don't anticipate him to really hurt Paulo with big shots. He'll tag him, but it's not going to do anything. And what if he can't impose his kind of style on a guy like Paulo Costa? And he's forced to strike with him and deal with that striking pressure of Paulo. Take those big shots of Paulo. Chimaev just might fold. So it's a 50-50 fight. I mean, Chimaev could go out there and do what he does to everyone else. But I think the styles might favor Paulo. But either way, that's a great fight. Glad it's finally happening. And Ikram Aliskerov, he's not getting a replacement at UFC 291. Instead, he'll be fighting Nasruddin Imavov, I think, as the feature fight. Great fight, a battle of two strikers, two prospects in the middleweight division. Not really sure how that one's going to go. I got to do a little more research on both guys, especially Ikram Aliskerov, because the only fights I've seen from him was when he got knocked into another dimension by Chimaev's uppercut and when he knocked out Glassjaw Phil Hall. Other than that, I don't know too much about the guy, but these are some huge fight announcements, man. Huge fights, UFC 294. With the 3 fights I know about, I mean, already, those are all the fights you pretty much need. You don't need to add any more big fights, but I'm sure they'll probably add like Usman versus Bilal or something like that. But I'm glad that Islam has a fight. That means that Leon Edwards will fight a welterweight contender. And we'll get Leon versus Colby, and hopefully Charles Islam 2 stays together so we can see Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. Because I want to see Volk stay at featherweight for one more defense against Ilia before going back up and fighting Makhachev. I feel like the rematch will be more exciting if we see Islam come off another big win where he's looking like a world beater again, and we see Volk get another featherweight title defense. I feel like that'll just add more hype to the rematch. I'm up for seeing it right now, but Charles deserves his rematch, and he said he wasn't ready. He better be ready, and he better show up. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below of all this news and all these matchups, and I'll see y'all in the Peña video.